Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, members of City Council. Please attend a call meeting of the City Council to be held in the 6th floor conference room, 801 Crawford Street, 5 p.m., Tuesday, November 27, 2012, for the purpose of a public work session. In addition, you may consider a motion to go into closed meeting by order of the mayor. Mr. Cherry? Here. Mr. Edmonds? Here. Mr. Heretic?
Here.
Mr. Moody?
Here.
Ms. Randall? Mr. Whitehurst?
Here.
Mayor Wright?
Here.
Mr. Godfrey?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council. Our first item on your work session agenda tonight is the update to the FY13 management plan. I'm going to ask our senior legislative and management analyst, Sherry Neal, to come and lead us through a presentation on that update. You'll recall that this is an initiative that was begun earlier in the calendar year with the city manager and the intern at the time, Justine Jones, and she gave a presentation about how we put together the items in this management plan for the year during the spring and the summer, and then we were going to have periodic reporting on it with each quarter during the fiscal year. And so we've completed the first quarter report, and in the transition between the time Mrs. Jones left, this got reassigned to Ms. Neal, who has capably taken it on, and we now have the first quarter report that we can give you an update on. So, Sherry, if you would please.
Thank you.
Before you get started, Sherry, do you have a handout or?
We're going to give our handouts later.
Handouts later. Okay. All right. Go ahead. Proceed.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Wright, Vice Mayor Whitehurst, members of council, the staff. This evening, can you like to look at please?
Hit it, pending grace.
This evening, I'm going to give you a quick update on the progress of the FY13 management plan. We're going to present just a few of the charter projects, some updates on a few of the project updates, and acquaint council with the FY13 management plan project charter reporting system. As you may recall, that this management plan is the administration's agency-wide budget planning and management tool that facilitates strategic progression towards city council visions, and it is distinct from day-to-day tasks of staff, which are outlined in the department's other guiding documents. Currently, there are 75 project charters divided into 4 committees, and you may remember the 4 committees from earlier presentations that you received. The Administration of Budget and Finance, Community Economic and Development, Health, Human Services and Education, Public Safety and Transportation. For the first quarter, 43 of the 75 projects contained a requirement for a report, for a first quarter report. Rather than try to go through all of those this evening, we just selected a few to highlight this evening. From the Administration, Budget and Finance Committee, the Financial System Phase 2 HR Payroll, and this is for the Munis Financial System, version 9.3, has been installed into the city's new VMware platform. Upgrades have been done, the server is complete, and the testing environment in the plan has been developed for the finance department, and I believe that it's going to be installed on all the computers within the next week or so. Also out of this committee, the website hosting, redesign, and launching. This project is also on target. Collaboration between the Department of Information Technology and the city's advertising agency, Arenji, to transition the hosting of website is completed and progressed without complications. Hosting the city's website has been placed on the cloud. The Marketing and Communications Department is moving forward with using contrived focus groups to review and evaluate a redesigned template of the site. And the findings will be shared and reviewed with city management team prior to making a presentation to council and launching the newly designed website. Out of the Community and Economic Development Committee, and this is a project you're probably already familiar with, is the Kroger project. And a prospective anchor tenant has executed an letter of intent, I believe that is, and a master developer for the rest of the development has also signed a letter of intent. The development consists of slightly more than 200,000 square feet of retail space. It'll result in $30 million investment and the creation of about 600 jobs for the city of Portsmouth, and the master planning process has begun. And although you may have heard some of these presentations in some of your other days, this just shows you that they are interrelated in the management plan as well. So there is some continuity between them. Out of the Community and Economic Development Committee, the Portsmouth online permitting system is up and running. The funding methodology has been approved. Last year, the city issued about 4,319 permits. Using the new online system, they're looking at 20 to 25% of these permits will be issued online. The types of permits the staff anticipates issuing online are the most frequently used and are generally the least expensive. And the city will be absorbing the credit card fees, but we expect that to be a nominal and a negligible impact on our revenue. The types of permits to be issued would be building, mechanical, plumbing, and electrical. Out of the Health and Human Services Education Committee, we have the Paradise Creek Park. Phase 1 of the improvements are near completion, which includes more than 2 miles of trails, a bridge across the wetland, parking lot, and entrances mound. The staff is working with the Elizabeth River Project to draft preliminary Department of Conservation and Recreation Land and Water Conservation Grant. And the grant will be used to offset ERP's cost for phase 2 of improvements. And the city will be the applicant, and the staff is currently developing a method for receipt and disbursement of the grant funds to ERP as the owner and the contractor. Out of the same committee, the Health Department had the development of public health workforce planning model, and he had 3 goals. One of his goals was to increase the medical reserve corps personnel from 50 to 75 to support valuable health efforts in the community. As of the first quarter reporting, they have recruited 11 additional personnel, which puts them 44% toward their FY13 goals. The second goal was to train 12 medical students and principals of public health to build partnerships between medical community and the public health. As of the first quarter, they have trained 3 groups of 2 medical students, and they're rotating them through the health department for 3 days each, which places them at 50% toward their FY13 goal. Their last goal was to facilitate nursing education and public health and form strategic partnerships with the higher education community in Portsmouth to engage in public health projects in the community. To reach this goal, they partnered with the TCC Portsmouth campus in a successful free flu vaccination drive-through event that took place in October. They utilized the Medical Recruitment Corps and the Portsmouth Health Department staff, and it was hosted and advertised by the TCC Portsmouth campus. At this event, they vaccinated 487 at-risk individuals, including students and homeless communities in a 3-day period at TCC Portsmouth. I thought that was very commendable. Now, from the Public Safety and Transportation Committee, the implementation of the city's hazard mitigation plan. Action has been taken to identify the city's special needs population through the Regional Special Needs Registry. And the staff is currently working to identify the locations at which transportation-dependent citizens will be provided transport when and as the situation demands and dictates. Raise the lights a little bit for me, please. This is discussing now the plan of the reporting document. We have developed a document that will look like this. This is booklet. This book is divided into the 4 committees. And behind each committee is a listing of all of the projects. There's also a listing of the departments that are responsible for the projects, the lead people in the project, and then the project code, which you saw under each one of them. This book, one of these books, will also be placed in the clerk's office for council to review at their leisure. If you want to look at any of the other projects, it'll be updated on a quarterly basis. We're also looking at making an electronic form of this and placing it on the city's website so that it will also be available for the public to see as well. That's about it. And the next step, so the committees will continue to meet monthly and report their progress on their charters and share other relevant department information. The council will be updated quarterly on the progress of the project charters, and the reports and the documents will be updated quarterly in the booklet. Questions, answers?
Let me see your chart you have there. I think we had some feedback when that was initially presented, and we wanted a column in there that identified when was the last time we discussed this item and was updated. And I think Councilman Moody and I actually had made that request. So, and I still don't see that in here. We need to put that column in here. Again, one of the concerns that we had is projects that are sitting on the books and there's no activity and no one knows anything about it, and then all of a sudden it becomes a hot item and it hadn't been discussed in here in the last year or two. I mean, that kind of was prompted with the city center, which we haven't had any update or any conversation in at least the 2 years and the 2.5 years I've been here. And so we want to make sure that column's in there, and we also want to make sure when we're getting those quarterly reports that we're talking about the items that are, from a priority standpoint, ready to go or closest to ready to go in that area, and not just spending the time talking about 75 items. I see you had 43 of the 75, and you picked, what, just 4 or 5 to give us a presentation? What criteria did you use to pick those 4 or 5?
Criteria, we discussed it at each of the committee members' meetings, and we asked the committee members to identify which projects in their particular committee that had a first quarter report would they recommend reporting out to council at a meeting at this meeting.
We want to make sure that we're engaged with those current activities, and I appreciate putting that book in the clerk's office for our leisure reading, but it's also an avenue for you not to tell us what's going on and say we put the book in the office, so you should have got it and read it. So let's make sure we're not getting ready to migrate down that road. Okay? Any other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
The next item on the work session agenda is the quarterly update from the police chief. Chief Argus has got a few items to highlight this quarterly report.
It did not. Just a second, Chief. We're having a little computer glitch over there.
We got a copy.
Yeah, we did. They have a copy in front of them while you're talking.
Makes it easy that way.
Yeah, it does.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, Mr. Godfrey, good evening. Just wanted to present some information to you as far as the chief's report. It's going to include staffing, take a look at some crime stats, enforcement efforts, and some special projects that are ongoing in the police department. Our current staffing levels right now, out of 263 authorized sworn positions, 251 of those are on payroll now. Of the 251, 231 are actually deployable. I have 2 on military leave, 13 are in field training, and 5 are currently attending. Out of 105 positions for civilian, non-sworn, 89 of those positions are filled currently.
Out of 105, you got 89.
89 civilian and 251 out of 263 on the sworn side.
Okay.
The highest number that we've been at since the 4 years I've been here. And actually going along with staffing, the next chief's report, we're going to be focusing on recruiting efforts and a new recruiting commercial that we just developed. Taking a look at some crime stats. Overall crime in Portsmouth, again, is down. As you can see, there's only 1 month off to the right there in red. That was February where we observed increases. But changes from this time last year versus this time this year, we are at down 13%, or 654 less incidents being reported. And over a 5-year average, it's 841 incidents less, where that's down 16%. The police department had established a crime suppression program we adopted using as a foundation to focus on 4 out of Tampa, Florida. We're currently in the process of modifying that to meet here in Portsmouth. So that operation plan is currently being tailored to make sure that we're continuing with our reductions. And as you can see, we're 13% down this year versus last year. We take a look at violent crime, 114 incidents less this year than last year. That's a 24% reduction. And over a 5-year weighted average, that's down 162 incidents, or a 30% reduction in violent crime. Our gunshot wound incidents continue to go down every year. This is year-to-date. 2008, we had 55, 2009, 50, 2010, 27, 2011, 24, and this year we're at 22. So it continues to be dropping off. Property crime, we're down 540 incidents, or a 12% reduction in property crime. Based on a 5-year weighted average, we're down 679 incidents, or down 15%. Just this past week and a half or so, we saw recent patterns of residential burglaries. We did a media release, as well as we're doing some reverse 911 notifications out to the areas that we're targeting. We have uniformed personnel, we have criminal investigative personnel. We've taken some officers that were assigned to support duties and putting them out on the street to target the recent increase in residential burglaries. Criminal investigations has identified some suspects, and we're currently going after those individuals. Some enforcement efforts, 16,731 traffic summonses have been issued so far this year. Same time in 2011, we were at 14.3, so we had a pretty good increase in our enforcement efforts for motor vehicle violations. Total arrests this year versus last year, we're up 410. Persons that have been processed through our processing area at police headquarters, 419. We're up 419 individuals in addition to what we had this time last year. Current active warrants, there's 2,411 active warrants that we're currently holding in our inventory. Of those, 553 felony arrests or warrants. Of those, 277 have Portsmouth addresses, 276 outside of the city, 1,858 misdemeanors, 970 of those in Portsmouth, 888 are out of the city. Our fugitive apprehension unit has gone back. We've identified several hundred warrants that really have no clear identifiers, basically they're unservable, and we're working with the Commonwealth Attorney to remove those out of the inventory. There's also a concerted effort for uniform patrol in their assigned areas to go out and enforce or serve the warrants when they're not handling calls for service. And we're working with the other cities and doing sweeps to get those people that are living outside the city as well.
Yeah, so that's saying half of our problem is outside of our city.
The 2,400 warrants that we're serving, half of those are from outside the city. We're working with the other jurisdictions, and they're coming into Portsmouth as well, so we're coordinating our efforts.
How many did you say were unserviceable, you thought? Did you put them on there?
About 300 to 400 that have no clear identifiers and basically become unserviceable, so we're working through the Commonwealth Attorney's office to try to remove them.
Okay.
Just a couple of quick changes in our organizational chart. First one being the assistant police chief. I have an interim position. Robert Butler, was a captain. He's serving as the assistant chief for the police department. And under the operations section, just under the assistant chief, I established a pilot program for a police commander position. That's being occupied by Captain Sean Dunn right now. His main focus is our crime reduction efforts and coordinating uniform patrol and criminal investigations. So we identify the suspects and make the apprehensions as quickly as possible. One other change up in the right-hand corner, the yellow box that you see, the command duty officer position. That's a police captain that's assigned to night work to increase the supervision levels during the nighttime for the police department. I would say probably in the 4 years I've been here, I've hired over 40% of the police department, so we have a young sworn staff, so I wanted to increase the supervision at nighttime.
Hey, Chief, is that a rotated position, the command duty officer?
It's a permanently
It's a permanent assigned position, one person?
How long have you had your reorg in place?
Total reorganization has been about 3 months now.
You seeing what you want to see? The results?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And we're continuing to monitor, and part of that Focus on 4 operations plan that we took out of Tampa, Florida, that's being modified by the police commander. He's ultimately responsible for implementing that program. Okay. Several months ago, I had the Red Flex individual come in and do a presentation for council for red light camera traffic enforcement. We've gone back and done our research through our history for a records management system and developed 9 intersections for the potentially having the red light cameras installed. By code, Portsmouth is authorized to have 9 intersections that we could have cameras at. The next steps here, now that we've identified that information, would be to enter into a letter of intent with Redflex, and then they would come out and actually do their own surveys of these intersections, and from there they would actually come back and report out where they would invest in the red light camera systems. Redflex totally funds the project. The city of Portsmouth would not be putting any money up front, and we would go from there. Council would ask me to take a look and review with some of the other chiefs of police that have the red light camera enforcement in their cities. The 2 most notable issues that have come up from my conversations with other chiefs are, 1, an internal policy to address city vehicle violations needs to be put in place. And another chief reported that he's required to have a full-time position of somebody just to go through the violations and confirm and approve the violation notices before they go out. Video is there if a car violates the red light. The next day, a police officer comes in and actually takes a look at the video, make sure the timing's there, the vehicle is in the violation zone. Once they click approve, and then Redflex sends out the notices. By code in Virginia, it's a $50 fine for a violation of red light.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, what was the criteria used to identify the intersection?
Evaluated crashes.
Okay.
What you see there off to the right are the number of crashes at each intersection. So George Washington and Victory had 108 accidents.
Okay.
That's a busy intersection.
One of the other things, did you check with your counterparts in other cities about this revenue generation? The gentleman that presented it to us must have said 20 times this was not a fundraising effort, but he kept showing us all the money that they were making. So that,
There is revenue generating. Virginia Beach and Newport News are both reporting that they are generating revenue. Chesapeake's cameras in Norfolk are in the process of getting their systems up and running. And I know they have a couple of intersections in both cities now. I don't think they've seen any revenue yet.
okay. Thank you.
One other area of concern for the police department, based on our inspections of our firearms, we've identified 166 weapons that need to be replaced. These weapons are 10 years or older, service handguns that the officers are carrying. So we're currently in the process of, we're going to replace half of those guns this year and half of the guns next year. It's coming out of the budgeted amount within the police department. A new weapon system, $425 is about the cost of the new system. Trading in our current weapons brings down the cost per weapon of $175. So we're going to be moving forward to upgrade the weapons that need to be. Night sights wear and tear on the guns, manufacturer recommendations. The average service gun for law enforcement is about 10 years.
10 years, okay, that was my question.
And if anybody has any questions and answers.
Good job. One of your slides, you talked about your arrests were up, but your crime was down. Is there any kind of correlation?
The only reason I track the arrest data is to bring it in because when we took over processing from the sheriff's office, I just wanted to kind of give you the numbers that are actually being run through our processing area. So we're up about 400 plus prisoners this year than we were this time last year. In addition to that, we've had numerous officers in field training programs, and of course we have new officers in field training. They're getting used to doing all the reports and looking for activity, and that also increases our enforcement efforts that are made out there.
Okay. And how about the processing? All of that smooth smelling?
The arrests go in, get processed. There's been a couple of bumps in the road at the new courthouse. We've had to modify as we've gone along, but so far we're meeting up with our demands.
Okay, very good. Yes, sir.
Do the traffic numbers include the tickets and stuff that the sheriff write, or just strictly police
Just
department?
Portsmouth Police
Just police department. Okay.
Anybody else? Thank you, Chief. Very good. Thanks.
Good, Chief.
Next item on your work session agenda is a proposal from the Economic Development Authority to underwrite the cost of the community-based corrections plan. And I'm going to ask Aaron Kelly, the chairman of the EDA, to come to the table in just a minute and talk about what the authority's rationale and proposal was in doing that. But just to give you a brief recap, you'll recall that we introduced this in your work session and council meeting on November 13th, that the city would move forward with funding 80% of the share of the cost of the community-based corrections plan, and that vote failed at your council meeting on a 3-3 tie. At its meeting on November 20th, the Economic Development Authority took action to propose underwriting that 80% cost of the community-based correction plan. And so I've asked the chairman to come to your meeting tonight and explain the proposal and the rationale for that.
Sure. Very good.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. As you all know, the Civic Center is a prime piece of property for the future economic development for the city of Portsmouth. It's vital. We all know this. Over the last few meetings, the former city manager has kind of prepped us into the transition of having the Civic Center property roll over onto the EDA so we can actually start looking at it for future development. As we understand it, we can't move forward with any kind of public funding or any kind of idea of a plan for a future without having a study done. And from the information that we've gathered, we didn't want a financial obstacle to hold us back from a study to find out where we can go with this. So as a body, our commissioners had a discussion about it, and we put forth an opportunity to fund up to $70,000 for a study. Now, I want to be very clear. This study is not necessarily just to relocate inmates into the regional jail. It's also used for whatever you choose it to be. You can use it to build a new jail if you like. But it's a prime piece of property down here. We really don't want to take advantage. We want to take advantage when we can. We really don't want to delay them.
I think it was a great move on the board's part. I think, again, the information is vital that we collect the data and find out the true cost. We've got several options with our inmate population, and we don't want to immediately close the door on this one, which probably is the most viable one. But the data collection point is, as I think, is critical, and I guess that's what your board recognized.
Holding a survey that was done in April, this thing's like an onion. Every time you peel it, something else pops up. Why do we need another survey when this was done in April? And what are the other opportunities to relocate prisoners? I'm told, listen to the sheriff, it's going to cost money for us to do that, a lot of money. Why don't we put everything on the table so we know what we're doing?
That's precisely what you're proposing. That's why we need that study to get that data.
What's that study from?
Yeah, what is that?
Is that a jail?
Yes.
Regional jail study?
If I could address that, Mr. Mayor, that is.
Is that the capacity study that they did?
You may want to call it that. Yes, it's not. However, in the parameters of what DOC considers as a community-based corrections plan. And you're absolutely right, Mr. Vice Mayor, we do want to have all the options on the table. It's just that if this is going to be one of the options, the first step that you have to take to consider expansion or relocation into the regional jail as an option, the first step of that is to do the community-based corrections plan. And then once you do that, then you can look at that option along with other options to include locating them at other facilities outside of the jurisdiction, and any other options that you may want to consider. But this is just sort of the first step of one of the options, and if you choose not to do that, you effectively take that off the table.
It would make me feel better if you had a list of all the other options. I don't know what they are.
Okay, Mr. Moody.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Aaron. I think EDA, I think the heart's in the right place.
Yeah.
Obviously, we need to develop the jail site, just like we need to develop the Holiday Inn site that actually has been a clear piece of property for 4, maybe 5 years now.
Right.
So We currently don't have a plan for the development of the jail site. I would think the Holiday Inn site would be much more marketable. If we're having trouble marketing that to a project to our liking, I don't know about the jail site's marketability, quite frankly. But that's neither here nor there. The development community will decide, what the value is, and we'll decide what the quality is acceptable. But I think the problem came in, and I think all of us got emails from citizens saying, it appeared the EDA was countermanding and usurping what council had decided not to do for various reasons. My reason was we're equal member of the jail authority, and equal doesn't mean that we're saddled with 80%. Yeah, we'll get the benefit in many ways, but they'll also get some revenue. So we're in this thing equal. Equal doesn't mean 80% to Portsmouth's taxpayers and 20% to the other 4 localities or other 3 localities. That's not what it's about. But I would have liked to have seen you come here and say, hey, City Council, what if we do this, and have the communication on the front end and avoid all these emails and all these texts flying around saying, what are you guys up to, and girls. But I think if that would have been in place, then we have a conversation about it. And 2, I heard, and in fact, I think I certainly had called you and said, well, we did it because we didn't think the city could afford the $65,000. Well, the city can afford $65,000 probably many, many times over. But the city council decided not to do it at that present time. And your action, which I understand, and I wasn't there, that came at the tail end of the meeting with very little discussion on the item. I don't know if that's correct or not. That's what I was told. But anyway, they appreciate what y'all do. Y'all do some great things. But communication never hurts, especially coming at the day later. I mean, that didn't have good appearance. So the methodology was flawed, even though I agree with you. We need to market that piece of property and a lot of other pieces of property around town, especially the Holiday Inn site. So,
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and Mr. Moody said most of what I wanted to say. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody here thought it was a financial problem for us to pay for the study. It was a policy decision, political, some people say, but we made a decision that we do not to pursue that study. I too feel like you guys, I think you were out of your lane, personally. Having chaired committees for this city, I know sometimes when the council makes decisions that, as chairman, you don't agree with. I had it happen to me several times, but they're the policymakers and the politicians, and frankly, you lead politics to the politicians. Money, $65,000, not an issue. We made a decision that we're not to pursue it at that particular time. And if it was going to be pursued, that could I be paid for, like Mr. Moody said, more equally, or simply by the regional jail. We have other entities who are offering to take our prisoners, but they're not asking us to pay them to tell us how much it's going to cost us for them to take our prisoners. So applaud your initiative. Just don't agree with it. And if I'm understanding it right, for you to go hold this, they need something from us to do this.
I brought it back to you because you took an action on it at the last meeting. And, for any different action to come from this body, it would take, as I understand the parliamentary procedure, it would take some decision by the 3 that voted against it to reconsider it.
Okay.
So I wanted to bring the proposal forward to you for you to have that opportunity if you want to reconsider it.
or 90 days, right? Is there a length of time?
I believe that's correct. There is a certain time limit to bring something back that has been rejected.
Well, I'm one of the 3, and I'm not going to reconsider it at this time. So,
Ms. Whitehurst?
I'm not.
This is a matter of policy where there's a liaison present. the liaison ought to be consulted on behalf of the council. That was not done.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Where there's a liaison person present, they should be consulted on action like this before.
We're all, every single one of us are stewards of the city. We are appointed by council.
That's right.
And this discussion went around the entire table and everybody commented on it. We did open it up for discussion. I understand that there might have been a procedural feeling that maybe could have been handled differently. And the reason that many people probably felt this was pushed through pretty quickly was the simple fact that for us, we stated that in this motion that if it was a financial obstacle, we would cover that because this is that important to us. And that's all. It's up to you. You guys can reject it. You don't have to accept the funds. We just thought we'd put it on the table as a matter of good faith.
Where the funds come from.
Okay, Mr. Hartick?
Yes.
Hold on, Mr. Hartick.
Mayor, I would simply say to Aaron that I do think this is an economic development issue,
It is.
and I don't think you're outside of your lane at all. I think that unfortunately in this situation, any decision regarding the jail has gotten so wound up in politics that we can't see daylight. And I think what you've done, and commendation to the EDA, you've tried to show a little daylight where people would have us remain in the dark. And I think this is exactly what you should be doing, and I applaud you for it.
Ms. Raymond?
I had made a comment to Attorney Heritage. Too, it just appeared as if the information, you brought us to the information based on good faith for the information that you had. And you gave us the benefit of what your committee had recommended for us. And it's for us to dissect it to the point that we can see how we can live with it or to change it to fit whatever the mold is or pattern that collectively we come up with. But I think the committee, you did what you are assigned to do. And there is up to us to take it from there to the next level. So I wanted you to understand that because we were not 100% from this council in either direction. We were split.
Mr. Attorney, procedurally, where are we with this matter as far as moving forward with taking it forward or killing it or?
There's nothing on your agenda right now.
Nothing.
There's nothing on your agenda to vote on right now. If council wants me to, I can certainly take a look at what possible parliamentary procedures might be possible and advise you prior to your next meeting. But there's no way I could give you that advance on the fly today.
Dr. Edmonds?
Yeah, where does this lie then? What is the disposition? Is the study going ahead or?
No, they're going to kill it. We need this study.
So what EDA has suggested?
Absolutely.
We're going against it?
Well, last meeting, you weren't here, and we were at a 3-3 tie.
Bypass.
3 in favor of the study being done and 3 opposed, and because of that, it failed. And they have now, as Mr. Hurtig said, the board looked at this thing purely from an economic development standpoint and how vital it is to this city. I want to applaud them for what they did. Naturally, I was one of the ones that wanted to study. This doesn't do anything but get us the data that we need, and for us to block that data and hurt the potential revenue generation of this city and our citizens because of that, I think is wrong. So I applaud what they did. But where we are is, last meeting you weren't here and we were at a 3-3. So it failed for approval. And so the economic development is now making the suggestion that they would like to move forward with it and pay it out of their funds to keep the study going.
What is their funds?
So all that we can
We're
do is
trying to
just
find
discuss
that.
what happened.
What happened.
We can't vote on anything.
That's right.
Well, not tonight, but we want to, one way or another, give our blessings as a body, a full body, on where we want to go with this.
Yeah, right.
Okay, Mr. Whitehurst.
You know, politically speaking, we just found out that the city manager, former city manager, had agreed to pay for things that we didn't know anything about. Spending taxpayers' money, but as a city manager, he can't do that. You may have been doing certain things as far as pushing things along. And all I'm saying, if you present me with a plan, tell me what all the options are, what the costs are, what we have to do and not have to do, and on one piece of paper or collection of papers, I can support it. But right now, every time I look at it, something's different.
Yes, sir, Ms. Smith.
I want to correct one thing. Their funds are our taxpayer funds.
We recognize
We recognize that, sir.
Well, I just want to make that clear.
We
And
understand that.
part of the rub with the public, when they heard about this, public can fire us. They have that opportunity every 4 years. They can't do anything to EDA. If you spend money, public money, which that is, and they don't disagree with it, they can't do anything. They have to work through us. Y'all serve at our pleasure. We can do something, but they can't put their arms around you. They can't come to your meeting to voice opposition because more than likely they don't know in advance what's going to happen. So I'm not beating you up. Once again, I just think if the communication would have been there, it would have been a whole lot better, Aaron. So I appreciate what y'all do, but I think this was kind of rushed and wasn't communicated properly.
So let me ask you, you made a comment. Have you surveyed the public and they're opposed to this? You're speaking like the public is.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
I said I received a lot of emails, a lot of texts, citizens weighing in that what's going on. Y'all take action one evening, and somebody else countermands that the following. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. But I've actually received just the opposite.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to clarify something for the Vice Mayor's benefit. This is not something the previous city manager worked out. I will tell you that it first came across my desk within days after being the acting city manager because I attended the Regional Jail Authority meeting in early November. And at that meeting, it was already on their agenda to consider moving forward. And the other three members of the authority said, this is something that needs to be done, but on this timetable, we're not ready to fund our equal share. So Portsmouth wants to advance it and get it done this year. You're going to have to ante up more than your proportional share to move it forward. So I was the one that put on the table, if it's going to get done at all, and it's going to take a higher proportion from Portsmouth, I would propose the 80-20 scenario. So don't want you to think that was something the previous city manager did. I take responsibility for that because I wanted to, we were all under the same deadline. The thing, if it's going to get done in this cycle, and it was presented that the cycle only happens every 2 years, that if it was going to get done in this cycle, it needed to move forward quickly. And so I put that proposal on the table and did it conditionally that I would bring it back to council for its endorsement before moving forward.
I want to applaud you for doing that because it's that important to this city. And again, we are up against a timetable, and we're sitting here making discussions like if we'd have talked and if we come back later. The issue is if we don't get this study done and have this data by the end of the year, that we're potentially going to have lost an opportunity with using this as an option in the regional jail and having that jail sitting there for the next 2 years.
Mayor,
Okay, hold it, sir, you haven't been recognized. So, again, thank you for that clarification. Mr. Moody?
I was going to ask the question, obviously we know a study was done in 2003 and it went stale. What is the shelf life of a study? Does anybody know?
I think it's 3 years.
3 years.
I think it's 3 years.
So consequently, if we didn't do something in 3 years, we would have to do another study. Just like the current study, or the most recent study, I think is 2003. So it got stale 3 years ago. That would be a concern too. I mean, if I would like to know that we got something, if not in the oven, getting ready to be put in the oven, So we don't have to go back and spend, or the regional jail spends tax money too from their regions, that we have to invest in another study. If Portsmouth has done anything in its long history, it's to pay for a whole lot of studies, and a lot of them have gone nowhere. So.
Yes, sir.
One final comment. Anybody, including you, Mayor, and the city manager, goes out and obligates or conditionally obligate money, tax money, needs to come back and let us know we can agree or disagree.
Sure.
That needs to happen.
Are you implying that he just told you the city manager didn't do that and you're still on that?
I'm saying, he said he did it, so he should have come back to us and let us know what he did.
And that's what he did.
Today.
No, he did it last meeting, Vice Mayor, but, okay. Any further discussion on this point?
No.
I just think as a council, we need to do everything we can to make sure this study goes forward. And unfortunately,
Was it coming back again
Well-
for us to look at it? This is it?
I'll advise you prior to your next meeting what parliamentary
You got your
choices
money.
you might have.
Okay.
Mayor, can I make a suggestion?
yes, sir.
Can we, our liaisons to the regional board, can we revisit that with them and see if they won't reconsider that, funding that study?
Who's that?
With the regional
The
jail.
regional jail.
We there.
I mean, why can't we do that?
Say that again, I missed it.
Why can't we revisit that issue with the regional jail board and see if they won't let us do 20% and divide it up equally among the cities, instead of Portsmouth having to pay 80%? Why can't we go back to them and ask them if they would reconsider that? I mean, can it hurt anything?
If I may
Sure,
answer
go
that,
ahead.
it would be, there's 4 localities, so it would be a 25% share naturally.
Okay.
You can always go back and ask. I guess there was a pretty clear determination by those other 3 members that the only way it would move forward in this cycle would be is if Portsmouth bore the lion's share of that cost.
So they didn't have much enthusiasm, it appears, for the study period. Is that
Correct. There were 2 meetings on that November 2nd day, if I remember correctly. There's a finance committee that immediately preceded the full authority. And the finance committee's recommendation was we would only recommend to the full authority that this community-based correction plan proceed, and if Portsmouth comes up with some significant proportion of, a greater than its 25% share proportion of the cost of the plan. And then the authority took that recommendation and said we conditionally approve moving forward with the plan if you, acting city manager, go back and get the authorization from your council to fund the 80% of the cost. So again, it was a timing thing. I mean, we were we're facing a very short deadline to get this done by the DOC deadline, which is the end of the calendar year, and the other 3 members felt like this is not something that is necessarily their initiative at this moment, that it's primarily Portsmouth initiative, and if Portsmouth wanted to keep it going, then it should bear the majority of the cost.
So again, you wouldn't expect them to be enthused about a project that's more importantly to us. I mean, we're talking millions of dollars here, and they understand that, and I think we understand that, and I think that's what the economic development understands, that this is so critical to our city that $65,000 is a drop in the bucket to what the benefits are for Portsmouth. So why the argument with wanting them to share in our enthusiasm and wanting them to pay an equal pay when it's our skin in the game and it's our citizens and it's our potential revenue? I don't understand that argument, sir. You got the floor.
Well, I don't know that it's an argument, but when you're a member of a regional board, by golly, things should be shared equally, whether it's revenue, whether it's expenses. and to all of a sudden say, Portsmouth, you have to pay 80% of the cost because we don't want to do it right now is just not right. And somewhere you got to stand on principle. Now, with that said,
So for $65,000, you're going to let that jail sit for 2 years?
Hear me out.
You got a principle.
Hear me out, Mayor, okay? Please.
I want to hear it.
I'm getting ready to say something you'll probably like, and some people won't.
It'll be a shocker, but please, go ahead.
Well, maybe I won't say it then.
Okay, good.
I'm going to reverse my vote on this, but I tell you what, before I do, I'm tired of seeing valuable property in the city set vacant for years. We're talking about a jail, developing a jail site that's going to cost millions to tear down. There's no development plan for it. This council said we don't want to spend $65,000 that the regional jail is saddling us with. Then we got one of our appointed agencies that rushed the judgment and going to spend what they call their money. Well, their money is tax money. You need to convey that to the other members, Mr. Chairman. That's tax money. It's not your money, not my money. It's tax money. You know, I don't want to tie up development. I've been pro-development ever since I've been on this council. But I'm also want to see some action. And I haven't seen any action, quite frankly, Mayor. And I can't keep sitting here and spending tax money for studies after study when we don't see anything materialize from it. So I'm going to reverse my vote, but by golly, I want to see some action. I want to see the Holiday Inn. I want to see some proposals. Have we been to market with that? We've been wringing our hands with Lincoln. We've brought them in here more times. We've worn the carpet out. And all they come back with is a lower grade development that this council doesn't want to do. Have we put it out to market with other developers? If we have, I haven't seen anything materialize from it. So I don't want to handcuff us with development opportunities, but by golly, I want to see those opportunities. I want to see some return on investment from these studies. I'm sick and tired of studies. Study. Let's do something.
You're right. You said something I wanted to hear, sir. I appreciate that.
Probably said a little more than you wanted to hear.
And you'd be amazed with how much I agree with what you just said, sir. But again, please let's not excuse the fact that we've just gone through in these last 5 years, 5 of the worst years in this country's history from an economic standpoint. And timing is everything. And if we don't take this opportunity to put this thing on the market, Mr. Moody and other members, and also couple that with our Holiday Inn site, we're going to mess around and hurt this city probably for the next 40 years. And to sit here because we don't want to take this or we don't want to pay 80% of the cost and all of that because of what it would do for this city, because of the potential increase of another 500 people to our downtown waterfront, and what that would do to all of our restaurants and museums and other businesses here, what that would do is absolutely no comparison to $65,000 to spend. So thank you for
That's why I'm reversing my vote. But with that said, I know we've been in a recession, but I drive a lot of places around this region, Mayor, and so do you.
That's right.
And I see brick and mortar going up in spite of that. So I won't beat that horse anymore.
This is our time to shine, so I thank you. Yes, sir, Mr. Vice Mayor.
I would join my colleague providing at the next meeting, this issue comes back up, there is a plan to show me all the different options that are available for this jail situation. If that's not available, I won't do it. But if you can tell me what else is on the table, what else could potentially be put on the table.
Okay, Mr. Moody.
Thank you, Mayor.
You wanna do that?
What's the parliamentary procedure to revisit this thing?
My first thought right now, and I'll get together with the city clerk prior to the meeting, but it seems to me that the procedure would be this. This would come up under new items submitted by council members. There would be a motion made to reconsider the vote at the last meeting at which this appropriation failed by a tie vote. The motion to reconsider may be made only by a council member who voted with the prevailing side. That means Mr. Moody, Mr. Cherry, or the vice mayor. So you are the only three members of council who could legally make a motion to reconsider. If that motion to reconsider passes, then the resolution from the appropriating the money, the resolution from your prior meeting is before you, and you then vote it up or vote it down. Ms. White, is just first reaction, does that sound pretty close to what we should do?
It's close, but not quite, but we'll get together on it.
We'll work out the details and advise council of the procedure prior to the meeting commencing.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. And yes, sir.
I also feel, once we get that study, Mayor, that we do need a blue ribbon panel, and the Sheriff's Department needs to be represented on that panel, as well as the business community, and maybe a member of the development community. If there's consensus for that, I think we need to work out the details.
I think we can look into that.
And let them digest that study and compare it against any other studies that are out there.
I think the only criticality here is to get this study and get this thing done by the end of the year, so it remains a viable option as we look at the other options. And yeah, bring in the sheriff, anybody else in. I mean, we're all in favor of that. It's just, we don't want to take this option off the table because of this situation that we put ourselves in. So I think that's one of the reasons why EDA and others are kind of trying to get us to take a second look at this. So I agree with you, we can do that, but we want them to get that data so we can have that as one of the viable options. Mr. Chair?
I was going to say, as I said last meeting, you can't do any of this without the sheriff at the table, and that's been part of the problem here, because of feelings, politics, and personalities. We try to do things around him instead of with him, and which causes some of the reactions we get from him. So nothing that concerns the jail should be done without consultation with the sheriff, because he's the only legally person to operate the jail and to deal with the prisoners. None of us have the authority. And that's been part of the problem. And this communication problem, that's where it lies. Not talking to the sheriff or his representatives, and it's got to stop. I said it my first day on council 2.5 years ago. And I'm still saying it. It's got to stop. We got to come to the table. We got to bring everybody in. He's an equal partner, and he's got to be here. And if he's not here, I'm not gonna sit here and disrespect his office or him the way that we have been doing. We got to stop doing that, man.
Okay.
You need to lead that charge for us.
I hear you loud and clear. You are aware that he has a seat on the regional board.
Yes, he does.
Hold it. You are aware.
I'm also aware he wasn't there when they voted on it.
And he doesn't come to a lot of them.
So,
okay? So if he's not going to be there, and he's not going to have his folks there speaking on their behalf, sir, that's where they iron that out. Because they may want to do something and he doesn't have the majority vote, doesn't give him an opportunity to sidestep them and then jump over here.
Well, let me say this. If it was
Do you agree with that?
If it was rushed there like it was rushed here, for example, we're here in November. The study got to be done in January.
Right.
Why didn't we take some action on it in April, May, June, July? So if it was rushed that one meeting that he wasn't there, just like we did it on the meeting that the councilman wasn't there. We had a whole year to talk about this thing, and now we're trying to jam it into 60 days.
I understand your point, but you don't disagree that he should be at that table and stating his position
at every table
with his representative.
Whenever the jail is spoken about, he should be there.
So if he's not there, do you view that as not communicating with the sheriff because he chooses not to show up to the meetings that he should be on?
See, you said he chose not to show up. I can't say he chose not to show up. I don't know why.
He's got a representative that's there at the meeting.
I don't know why he wasn't there, so I'm not going to make speculation about why he may have missed.
Then don't make the speculation that we're not communicating with him.
Well, I know we haven't done that because I've been here for 2.5 years.
All right.
And that I do know because I've been sitting right here.
All right. Anything else on this? Okay. Thank you, sir. Next. That was easy.
Move on.
Next. Yeah.
Move on.
Got a few hot topics to cover tonight.
Thank you very much, Aaron, and please convey to them, we appreciate what you did.
The first is just to bring you up to speed on the procedure. Let me invite Sherry Neal. She'll come back to the table and give you a quick briefing on where we are with the legislative packages. They're both on your agenda tonight for adoption, but as you know, they were presented to you at your October 23rd work session, and then we had intended to do a briefing with our legislative delegation the following week, I believe, and that meeting never happened because of the hurricane. So if she would just, I would ask her just to brief you on where we are with the packet and the input from our delegation.
Thank you. We are currently at the 11th hour with this legislative package due to numerous reasons, including Sandy. It's been pushed back, and we haven't had the opportunity to discuss it or have a council delegation meeting like we usually have. But pre-filing of the legislation for our legislators has to be done by Monday, the 3rd of December, by 5 p.m., which means that if we do not have our items into the hopper by then, anything that we ask our delegation members to do is going to go against their personal account, and their personal account is very small. So you have, I believe, in your packages, you have received the draft. I had sent it out in October.
Yes.
I had sent it to all of the council members as well as our delegation members for input, comment, anything. Not hearing anything back, we're proceeding under the notion that you're okay with what's in the package, and you're really scheduled to even adopt the package by resolution this evening. So I need some guidance, some input before you go with this. What we're gonna do.
That's probably not a good assumption, because again, we as a body, once you get those collection of suggestions that go in the package, we as a body need to discuss and deliberate on what items we want there or not because I want something removed, I call you, and then he wants something else. That is not how you do this. I understand we've missed an opportunity because of the hurricane and things of that nature, but we still as a body need to go through that and make sure, because I wouldn't want somebody putting something on or somebody taking something off. Again, we just had this discussion about this body needs to make those decisions, so we need to go through that, each one of those items, and make sure we as a body are comfortable with all of those. And so I'm prepared to do it now or midnight, whatever time we need to do it. But we need to go through that and deliberate.
And look at it.
Yes, sir, Mr. Luke.
Mayor, do we know what the public's suggestions are? I know we posted that on.
Well, actually,
online.
on October the 23rd is when I briefed council on.
So that contained everything, that was the cutoff?
That was the cutoff, and at that time, I also stated that there was no public input was given to us at that time.
Has there been any changes to what you briefed on the 23rd?
There was one change, yes, Councilman Cherry. The one change was the PPIC, and that was added into the package that you received for this meeting. And the PPIC had asked to have their charter changed.
Want me to take that, Sherry?
Yes, thank you.
PPIC's charter was enacted by the General Assembly many years ago, and it contains a requirement that there be an annual audit. And the annual audit has proved to be very costly for PPIC, especially with regard to the very small number of transactions that they take part in. And the feeling is that they, like a lot of other very small or moderate-sized organizations, really don't justify a full audit, which is the most expensive procedure that CPAs can use. So the proposed amendment to the charter would say that they would have to have something done annually, but it could be a review or a compilation. Those are CPA terms that are less invasive. But there's also an additional kind of monitoring requirement. There would be a requirement that PPIC cooperate with the city when the city prepares its CAFR every year. And the city's CAFR includes not only the city but also all affiliated organizations. There's no requirement like that right now. And I guess to put it differently, This takes the kind of an outdated requirement, oh, you're just going to have an audit with no reference to a CAFR, no reference to anything less than an audit, and it brings it more in tune with current accounting practices. And the goal is to save some money by PPIC.
Thank you.
Can we run through those items?
Definitely.
Yeah, we need to.
The first item in the package is to correct the language in the city charter to address election filing dates and related activities. Also, the change requirement in the current charter related to the incumbent council members seeking a mayoral position. That was the charter changes. If you remember, Senator Lucas submitted a bill earlier this year that addressed the change in the, correcting the election filing dates and the dates that are affiliated with those activities. What is not included in her bill is the change requirement, the requirement to say that you do not have to relinquish your council seat to run for the mayoral seat. I believe there's a public hearing that's going to be held very soon on all of the charter changes that's been requested by council.
See, that piece was denied last year. I think sending stuff back up that gets denied. Every city around here has that provision, so to me, that has to be General Assembly action for the state of Virginia. I don't know if there's concurrence, but I don't even think it needs to go up there and waste anybody's time.
What are you talking about?
The resigned runs.
Yeah.
If you want to leave it in.
No, I'm saying I don't think it should be in there. I think it needs to be, if anybody's going to carry that, I think it needs to be one of our General Assembly legislators. I don't know.
And when it was presented, as you correct, Councilman Moody, 2 years ago when we tried it, they didn't support that.
Yeah, and we sending it back up and asking somebody to
Do it again.
do it again. You know, that's the definition of lunacy. I mean, if y'all concur, I don't see why we would keep it in there.
I think we need to pull it as well. But yes, sir, Vice Mayor.
Actually, we had a Blue Ribbon Committee, came up with recommendations. It was changed by Senator Lucas at the General Assembly. She did that.
Yeah, but she's still there, so
That's right.
once again, the definition of lunacy is going through the same old motion.
That's
I
right.
think we should pull it as well. Any other comments? Pull it or keep it?
I think you have to pull it.
All right, pull it. Pull it, okay.
Yeah.
Pull that item. Next item.
Lucas ain't going nowhere.
Okay. The next one was a suggestion, well, we're actually saying that we would support legislation or either would like to have legislation introduced that would amend certain provisions of the PPPA and the PPTA to provide an avenue for negatively affected jurisdictions of affected localities to have more of an input into the process for projects located within their respective boundaries. It might be a little slippery hill to do, to try to climb because of the fact that when you're saying that local governments, which is what we're asking here in essence, that a local government has to provide consent prior to a project being, you know, an agreement being closed. There's not much support for that.
But isn't the General Assembly looking at taking on as action
General Assembly
themselves
is looking at a lot of different actions right now.
as pertaining to this PPTA?
They have a heavy
As a matter of
agenda.
fact, just today, Jim Reginbald, who works with Fiscal Analytics and Virginia First Cities and Virginia Municipal League, he released his report to a group of legislators that are looking at PPTA. And he has an examination of the Virginia Public-Private Transportation Act. In this particular report, he uses the Midtown Downtown MLK project as one of his projects that he's looking at, where compared to the 495 project in Northern Virginia, to show how the PPTA project process has not been used equitably. And so he's making some recommendations as far as how this process needs to be improved. In it, he has summary of findings that concludes that as state transportation construction revenues decline, and formula distributions to primary, secondary, and urban systems have ended, remaining state and federal subsidies for PPTA projects have increased in importance. The lack of formula construction distributions and PPTA processes itself have concentrated more transportation decision-making into fewer people, and ultimately the governor, the CTB, and the other transportation relating governing boards serve at the pleasure of the governor. It's unclear how PPTA project development occurs in relation to the National Environment Policy Act Alternatives Review Process. The CTB and other transportation-related governing boards have no statutory role in the PPTA process and are only referred to as oversight boards. And he has several others. I'm not going to go through them all.
Okay.
But also, Delegate Jones has also stated that he's going to have several pieces of legislation that he's going to be introducing as well, dealing with PPTA. So we are in support of anything that's going to help change the particular process to give.
So we can pull that item we got, pull the item that we have,
No way.
right, or not.
Not.
We can pull asking for that, but we're still saying that we're going to support,
Right,
any legislation that will address our concerns.
right.
Mayor,
Go ahead, sir.
what we're trying to do is to get a voice in the game. We don't have a voice now. And again, Senator Lucas some years ago voted to take the voice away from us. We need to have a voice. We need to ask and ask and ask until they finally hear us.
Same mental note.
I think one of the things that they're trying to do is give the CTB more of a voice and the MPOs and the TPOs more of a voice, which the local governments can work through, because at this point in time, they really do not have any statutory authority, just have like oversight authority.
Let them tell us
And just
no.
listening.
Mr.
Making
Hurtak.
suggestions.
And Mayor, this comes on my suggestion. I think I wrote part of this. And my thinking at the time was simply this. When the toll issue was presented, we had virtually nothing to say about it, and we were told many times it was frankly none of our business. I realize that when it gets up to the Assembly, this thing could take all kinds of bounces. But I think unless we attempt to lead the charge and act in our own best interest,
We aren't gonna get anywhere.
with respect to Delegate Jones, I mean, I think he's tried to do some good things, but I don't know what he's got in his in his bag for the Assembly. I think this is a signal to the Commonwealth that, we believe that we were treated badly.
Exactly.
And that we, as a locality, should have the same right, together with any private entity or public entity, to speak on our own behalf and to consent or not to projects like this. Now, I think we all know that a lot of these bills get to the Assembly and they die or they're amended to death or whatever. But I think that given the fact that the governor is now attempting to put tolls everywhere around the Commonwealth, this is exactly the kind of initiative that other localities could seize upon and essentially put some limits on the PPTA that don't currently exist. And that was essentially the reason for my suggestion.
I agree with my colleague, Mayor, but this is the very thing that it would be nice if we had a regional effort. Everybody was on the same page
Well,
to go there
We're getting there
with.
with these tolls going up everywhere.
And let me say this. I think that talking about delegating this to a regional body, if you remember, Portsmouth was the only city in the entire HRPTC that voted against the tolls.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody else was quite content to allow it to happen because it didn't matter to them.
Absolutely.
It mattered to us.
Matters now.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna leave that item. You okay with leaving that page?
Yes.
Okay, well, okay, all right, we're gonna leave that one, Sherry.
Okay.
All right, that one stays. Next.
That one stays?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Good job.
The next one, it was a constitutional amendment for restoration of civil rights to persons convicted of nonviolent felonies. This is going to be based on legislation that Senator Miller had put in for several years in the past. And so we're asking them to continue to submit legislation.
Yeah.
Does our delegation support that?
I have not had a chance to speak with our delegation yet. I've met with Senator Lucas today, but I wasn't able to speak with her. I have meetings set up tomorrow and up until the 3rd to speak with them about it.
I'm in favor of leaving that item.
I am too.
In favor?
I'm in
Okay,
favor.
leave
Leave
it.
it.
Okay,
Leave it
next.
there.
The next one is to amend a particular section of the code which deals with when a court may adopt a jail of another county or city. And this came down from the judges, I was told, because currently,
Oh, there it is.
thank you. Because currently, the code does not speak to whether it's silent, whether or not they can use a regional jail.
Regional jail, that's
So it's just amending the code to ask that regional jail be included in the code.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Very
good.
good.
Yeah, that
Have we
was
talked to
all
the sheriff on
right.
this?
That's good.
Next.
Have we talked to the sheriff on this one?
This is just, all this does is give localities the authority to use a regional jail. It doesn't obligate the city to anything.
Right.
It just gives,
The space
it
is
just
there.
gives you the opportunity, eliminates the argument that regional jails aren't included in there, so you can't use them for temporary housing of prisoners while you, if you have to demolish or work on your, or, renovate your jail.
We're using
Good.
them.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, leave that out. What's next?
All right, the next initiative was to amend the Virginia State Tax Code to provide tax liability to the creation of
Thank you, Tom.
specification zones. What this would do, if it would pass, in essence, it would give people tax deductions on their income taxes for the tolls.
There's,
Is that-
Listen to.
Now that's everybody?
Now, in the second paragraph of this package, I stated that during the 2012 General Assembly session, Senator Lucas had introduced a bill that was for low-income and student toll tax credit established, which didn't pass. But then also Delegate Rust introduced House Bill 862,
Yeah.
which was the income tax state deduction for tolls, and that bill has currently been carried over. Problem is, most times when bills are carried over, they are not continuing to the next session.
So, but it encompasses
Would be for
everybody.
Everybody.
Everybody, yeah.
And again, that was my,
Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah.
would be.
I mean, I think we already pay taxes that should go for transportation.
Yeah, and students.
As much as tolls are a tax upon a tax,
Yeah.
seems to me that the state should pay us back.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, we're good with that.
All right?
All right, next, number 6.
Number 6 is a study request for toll impact mitigation measures for disadvantaged populations. This was a suggestion that came about because of the fact that there's an increasing and expanding use of tolls statewide. And not only in the Hampton Roads area, but on I-95, there's a big pushback on the tolls that are trying to go there. All the localities up there are up in arms. Northern Virginia are upset about their increasing tolls. So this was the idea to have them do a study to see how they can mitigate the impact on toll, especially on disadvantaged populations and those who do not have alternative routes or adequate transportation to
Except to pay a
circumvent those
toll.
tolls. Yes.
Okay, what's the pleasure? Mr. Whitehurst?
there's an argument that's been given to me is the fact that you're really telling the public that they have to pay for the tolls, and disadvantaged people don't have to pay anything. And that's causing a problem
Is
with
that
it.
the study you're referring to, or you talking about item 7?
Number
You're talking about 7, we're on
Number
6.
7.
I thought that was changed, that wording.
I need number 7.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
on
number
7, right. 6.
We're on 6 right
Okay,
now.
yeah, let's get the study request. Are we okay with that, Steve, Bishop?
Yes.
We're okay with the
Yeah,
study.
all right.
All right, we're good. All right, number 7.
Okay, number 7 was identify and implement methods to aid certain socioeconomic income groups with the forthcoming tolls. And just as a little background, that particular suggestion came out of a study that was, the city had contracted with the Moffitt Nichols on the City of Portsmouth policy and legislative recommendations for the Midtown and Downtown Tunnel.
Okay.
And so these were some suggestions that they came up with.
When did they do that? What date is that
August
draft?
27, 2012.
Okay.
So these are some of the suggestions that was included in that, that if we're going to have to deal with the tolls, then these were some of the ways that they could possibly try to help mitigate some of the impacts.
I think that's good.
The easy pass was still there.
Okay, yeah.
Who initiated this study?
Easy pass.
Need to come out.
It'll take 10 minutes.
It was signed off on by the former city manager,
Yeah.
and I believe the former director of planning.
Planning department looking
Planning
into,
department,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
All right, So this item here, I think you want it out, I want it out. Anybody else?
I want it out.
Take it out.
3,
Take it out.
one more, okay, all right, take it out.
Good to me.
Okay?
I don't know why we.
Number 8,
Yep.
As you may recall, this particular past General Assembly session, the Port of Virginia Economic and Infrastructure Development Zone was created. And if you look down at your third paragraph, it lists all of the localities that's included in that zone.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the idea here was to establish a revenue sharing agreement, which amongst those localities, if they should choose to enter into such in this particular zone. So what this would do, it would only be putting it into the code to allow for such an agreement if the localities embodied in this zone are interested in entering any such revenue sharing agreement.
Well, we can get some money start together with that.
that sounds reasonable.
And yes, everybody share the
Make
costs.
it mandatory would be great.
It
Everybody
would be
share the
great,
costs.
but, okay, we'll agree, yeah, let that one stay. Okay?
Number 9 is the amendment that Mr. Olson spoke for about PPIC.
PPIC, okay, we're all good with that.
Yeah.
And the last one in there is the budget appropriation request for the Children's Museum for $250,000 for their after-school and summer STEM program.
This is for the STEM program with
This is good.
Norfolk
That's
State
good.
and Portsmouth Public School, yeah, okay?
This
That's-
is applied.
That's good.
That's a strong.
You're done good, ma'am,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
They look
We got you
good.
through that, don't we?
Yes,
They
you
look
did. Thank you
good,
very
yes.
much. Still have some skin left. All right, thank you.
Okay,
Okay, now.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of other hot topic items we'll try to move through quickly. Let me invite Patrick Small to the table, if you would, and he's going to brief you on 2 things. One is the item that's on your agenda tonight regarding the funding of the Bon Secours Maryview project through the Henrico County EDA, and also brief you on a proposal for the Victory Village developer to apply for low-income housing tax credits for that project. So just wanted to give you a...
You can save that second one, but go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
Not
Crowder.
important,
Members
no.
of council, good evening. The first item in brief is merely an endorsement resolution. The Henrico Economic Development Authority is being asked to issue its revenue bonds to the benefit of Bon Secours Health Systems, just as we do occasional refundings to take advantage of interest rates, so too do corporations like Bon Secours. They're doing a refunding of some outstanding debt to take advantage of those rates. They'll also be securing a little bit of debt for capital projects. Some of the refunding will be debt that was used for prior Portsmouth projects, and some of the proceeds of the bond issue may be spent in Portsmouth. So the Portsmouth Economic Development Authority was asked to endorse, which they're required to do in order for the bonds to move forward. That action, they held a public hearing at their last meeting. Bon Secours will be here this evening if you have any questions directly of them, but City Council is being asked under your regular agenda to basically endorse EDA's action in endorsing Henrico's action.
We're just endorsing, not guaranteeing anything.
No, sir.
All right.
No liability whatsoever.
All right, well, we can do that.
That's a good one. That's a good one. All right.
Still questionable, but
Okay.
we want to make it that way.
All right, next.
No strings attached.
The second item is to make you aware of a project that has been moving through the development process. We're all aware of the Victory Village development around TCC. I think there's some representatives from the developer here tonight, as well as Ms. Terry Danaher, who's vice chair of the EDA and has been spearheading the EDA's review of the project. Council approved some months back some changes to the master plan and a road closure out there to square the property up a little bit. It has always been master planned for multifamily on that portion of the development. The EDA has, over the past several months, been working with the developer and their architect to come up with a design that meets the guidelines and that would be attractive and beneficial to the city. But within the last couple months, the developer has made the EDA aware that the proposal by SL Nussbaum to do the multifamily project involves the use of low-income housing tax credits. So before before the project went too much further, and
Dominion and Power don't agree with it.
and we all pick up the paper one morning and see city planning or EDA approves low-income housing tax credit project at Victory Village. We wanted to make sure that this body was aware that that's the current plan of the developer. No application's been filed as of yet, nor have the site plan's been filed with the city. The EDA spent the past couple of months talking about this, and the acting city manager requested that I come tonight and make sure you were aware.
What is the EDA's opinion of this project? Could you just come to the table, please?
Sorry, I wrestled with a turkey that won, and I seem to have told this. So next year the kids will cook. Basically, the EDA went ahead and approved this with conditions. There were certain design details that we were concerned about that included vinyl siding. I especially had a problem with vinyl siding. There were other issues with regard to grade, how far above grade it was. There are a couple engineers who are also on the design committee, and they felt very strongly that getting it too high above grade would cause design problems that would actually make the development look ugly. So we compromised and have a kind of compromise grade level. And there were a couple other things that we've said our final approval depends on how they meet those particular design guidelines. We also have had recently some panel discussion about what is involved with the low-income housing tax credit, and I have to admit it's all up in the air for us right now because we have received different information, and I've had conversations with some of the other residents in the area and TCC's provost. And although the people I talked to, the president of the Cavalier Manor Civic League and the provost said that they were very impressed by a development that we went to see in Newport News, and it was a very nice development. They were not 100% on board with having another low-income tax credit property. And part of that has to do with that property being one of the last big ones that we have. I know the provost said that they had worked so hard to get that school up and running and done such a great job, and they were concerned about the potential for yet another challenge and what will follow. You know, what if you do this, then what's the next step in terms of the retail that would come there, and that sort of thing. So right now we're just waiting to see what they do with the design details, but we really don't have, as far as I know, anything further except our final approval based on design guidelines. I don't think that we as a body, and certainly we don't want to overstep anything again, have the right to disapprove or approve based on the financing. So I think our part is...
Okay. And the purpose of bringing that here, Mr. Manager, tonight was to...
Just make sure you're aware of it as soon as it becomes, as soon as I became aware of it, I felt it was important for you to be aware of it.
Let them know that the mayor is 100% opposed to that, and I do not think we're going to go and minimize this crucial area of our city with this type of project.
That's right.
Okay? There's a lot of opportunities that we can have along that corridor, and we've got a lot invested in that school, and the school has a lot. So I am totally opposed to it.
I'm in the one that's in agreement with the mayor. You know, we got TCC, we got Newport there. What's going to do to the values of those homes there? I mean, this is one of those spots, Mr. Mayor, that we get to do it one time.
That's right.
And we know what was there before. I'm with the mayor 100% on this one.
I agree.
We need to take the message back that.
I agree.
We don't want low-income housing.
Well, I'm not sure that we can take the message back. I don't know.
Understand.
what our legal-
I think we've got it out here now, right, wherever they are.
Hi, right there.
We are not ready to
We
start
are not going
disappointing
to.
ourselves with these types of things, okay? And I'm telling you, and absolutely not. Okay?
Ask a question.
Who's that? Oh.
Elizabeth?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry, boss lady.
Terry, because I haven't been here and I don't know,
Yeah.
Right.
is this low-income tax credit financing or apartments for low-income subsidized residents?
They aren't subsidized in the
they aren't
sense
subsidized.
of Section 8, but what you get is people who live there can only have 60% of the median income.
Nope.
Which means that you're taking 60% of around $70,900, somewhere in that area. And they have certain options. They can have they have to have a certain percentage at that level, or they can have 100% at that level. And one of the things that came up at the panel was that most of them go with 100%. So that's where the concern about what follows in terms of retail, because you're dealing with the lower income population.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I think we're totally opposed. Whatever we need to do to carry that message, would you make sure you represent this council? All right. Yes,
In the
sir.
essence of time, if we have a work session on Monday, December 10th, I can brief you on the other things and the hot topics then.
Okay,
And
all right.
they're not critical to tonight's meeting at all.
Okay.
Okay, very good. I think we're done good.
We got the girl.
Okay, I think we've got a motion to go into closed session.
I move to go into a closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A1 to discuss appointments to boards and commissions. The subject matter of the meeting is to discuss qualifications for candidates for appointment. The purpose of the meeting is to permit confidential discussion of the candidates.
Second.
Okay.
Mr. Cherry?
Yes.
Mr. Edmonds?
Yes.
Mr. Heretic?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Ms. Randall?
Yeah.
Mr. Whitehurst?
Yes.
Mayor Wright?
Yes.
We are in closed session. Thank you.